I've been appearing on screen for almost 30 years, from the very first nerve-wracking interview that I did in my home office to a season on Channel 7's Dragon's Den to literally thousands of videos and webinars and courses over the last few decades. I don't mind being on screen, if I feel prepared. But even being on a national TV show or a news program doesn't freak me out as much as using video for marketing, like being on YouTube or Instagram or even Facebook Lives. There's something very vulnerable and anxiety-inducing about those formats for me. And at times, I've struggled putting myself out on the internet in a way that feels authentic. Despite decades of experience in front of a camera, I really am an introvert at heart. But the bad news for me and other introverts who might be listening is that we kind of have to put our businesses and often our faces out there. Social media and content creation are one of the biggest must-haves for any growing business. And sometimes it seems like the louder you are, the more outspoken you are, the more controversial you are, the more videos you put out in the world, the more engagement and interactions and results you get, which is a drag, honestly. That's why when I met today's guest, I was so encouraged. Welcome to the Her Business podcast. I'm your host, Susie Daphnis, CEO at Her Business. Today, you're going to hear my guest explain that you don't need to make yourself uncomfortable or use those all too common salesy tactics to get the engagement that you're looking for from your video marketing. In fact, she's on a mission to de-douchify the internet, a term I absolutely love. Now, her video production and content strategy is all about authenticity. She believes simply being true to yourself and providing incredible value to your audience matters way more than being the loudest in the room or posting 10 videos a day, which, as we all take a collective sigh of relief, is great news. With content creation on social media, many of us can fall into the trap of vanity metrics. It's easy to get caught up worrying about the number of views a video gets or the number of followers we have on Instagram, but the truth is followers do not equal sales. Views do not equal sales. A viral video might bring your brand awareness up, but it's very unlikely that those same people are going to actually buy from you. So what if we were to start looking at social media as a way to get engagement from the right people, not the most people? And rather than concentrating on vanity metrics, what if we use short-form video on social media to gather up interest from an audience that is more likely to use our products or be interested in our services? It turns out, as our expert explains, that it's not about the numbers, it's about who you are attracting. This week, we have Alex Cattoni with us to discuss the power of authenticity in branding and how to create video content that connects with your target audience. Now, Alex is a YouTube extraordinaire, a successful entrepreneur and CEO of the Copy Posse. She was crowned DigitalMarketer's Marketer of the Year in 2022, and recently she won the Game Changer Award at the Women of Inspiration Awards in Toronto. She's a sassy, badass marketer who I met more than probably close to 2 years ago now because we're part of the same mastermind. And I think that you'll love her as much as I do. So let's take a listen. Hey, Alex, so great to see you.
I am so happy to be here.
I'm still laughing because just before we started, we were having a conversation about Zoom AI features, and this has nothing to do with this interview, but it's still got me in a little bit of a laugh. So maybe we'll keep this clip in, maybe we won't. But I wanted to just do this and see what happens. So good
now
to
everybody
see you,
knows.
Alex. Now
good
everybody knows.
Too. Very exciting over here. Fireworks, fireworks.
Oh, I'm really excited to speak with you. I want to start off with your mission because it is to de-douchify the internet. What does that mean? Can you tell us about that?
So that came about kind of organically. I didn't come out strong when I first launched the Copy Posse with that as my tagline. But the essence of my mission was always the same, which is, I was a freelance marketing consultant and copywriter for almost a decade, working behind the scenes with a lot of brands in the personal development space and other businesses. And I was really noticing this dangerous divide in the marketing industry. There was all of these incredible people selling products and services that were truly changing people's lives. And then there was all of this like other stuff, which I think a lot of people think about when they think about being sold on the internet. It's like our skepticism is high. We don't believe anything. It's like everything's fake. And the sad reality is like there's a reason why we're skeptical. Like there is a lot of crap online. And so when I started the Copy Posse, I knew from the beginning that I wanted my mission to be to redefine modern marketing and make it an actual experience for customers where you can experience marketing and not feel that like factor that I was seeing so much online. And that's become kind of the backbone of everything I do is, how can you sell your products and services in a way that feels like an experience that shows your audience who you are and what you care about, and you're pulling them forward rather than pushing your marketing on them, which is sort of the difference between like pushy marketing and persuasive marketing, in my opinion. And then the words de-douchify came out one time when I was speaking to my students on a training or something. And I was like, I don't know, we all just need to like come together to de-douchify the internet. And it just fell out of my mouth. And it was like, that is it. That is the perfect like 3 words to summarize what I am all about. And then it just kind of stuck because it's kind of cheeky and memorable. So
it really is. And I think as marketers, I know working with a lot of women business owners, as I know you do too, is that we want to sell, we want to pitch, but we don't want to be douchey. And so I love that it's part of your brand and it's part of your mission to teach people marketing that is a little more authentic, that really represents them and their brand, and they never feel icky about their own marketing. Now, you teach copywriters, you teach marketers, you teach business owners how to craft a brand voice that helps them stand out and attracts more of their dream clients. What role do you believe our brand plays in standing out and attracting those ideal customers that we want to work with?
Yeah, great question. Honestly, I think now more than ever before, brand is now everything. And what I mean by that is branding used to be this kind of like airy-fairy topic. I would go to marketing conferences and I'd listen to all these mostly men present on stages about like the tactics, the strategies to get more people to buy. And like, don't get me wrong, I love direct response marketing. I still use a lot of, powerful marketing strategies like that in my business. But to me, they are no longer as effective without the brand piece. And what the brand piece is really your values, what you stand for, your mission, why you exist, your story, and how you resonate with your audience. And so when I say now brand is everything, I would say in the last year and a half, especially since AI has sort of bursted onto the scene and really anybody can go type a prompt into ChatGPT or any one of the other plethora of AI tools and get output. Now that's accessible to anybody, which I think is really exciting for a lot of business owners who were always afraid of, the blinking cursor on the page. Where do I start? How do I get started in a way that's easy? AI has made it very, very accessible for people to get started, which is great. The dark side of that is there's just this more and more of the same happening where everything is just kind of like, bleh. And so when you think about the brands that are really rising to the top, it's the brands that have and do focus on brand, how they show up, the voice they use, the way that they resonate with their audience, and the stories they tell that are specific to them that like ChatGPT could never write because it's not about, like, they don't know who you are. And so to me, now more than ever, I mean, my mission, the third part of my mission is to build an empathy empire. And I kind of love that has become even more powerful now since AI has become a thing, because while I think it's an amazing tool, figuring out who you are, why you exist, and how you can help your audience and the stories you tell to get them to cross that bridge with you is literally everything. It's the most important thing in marketing.
I love that. And it's such a powerful thing to teach because it can be easy to throw a few words or throw a prompt into ChatGPT and get something that always sounds like there's a stick somewhere in the wrong place. You know what I mean? It's like,
there's a stick somewhere.
There's a stick somewhere. So I love that. So, and I think it is something that some of us do need to be taught is to, well, how do I find those stories? How do I feel okay with my own stories and know which ones are worth telling and which ones are not? and tying them in with your brand. I've had the opportunity to meet you a couple of times and watch some of your videos, and you have a brand that is kind of on the rebellious side, kind of like the statement of dedouchifying. How did you land on your brand and explore it in a way that aligns with your goals?
Oof. Yeah, that's like, I mean, how far back do we want to go? But I honestly think the first thing I want to say is that I don't want anyone to put a lot of pressure on themselves to like get it right from the get-go, because I think with brands, and I know, your audience is a lot of very successful business owners, brands can evolve over time. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I feel like my brand isn't me, or it's not as strong as it could be, that's okay. We change and evolve as people over time. My brand, even in the short 4 years since I launched Copy Posse, has evolved. And it's because I've gotten more confident, more confident in my edginess, if you will. When I was first starting, it was like, oh my God, I can't say the word douche. Like someone's like, I'm gonna offend all the douchebags out there. Now it's like, I really don't care about offending the douchebags. But I will say that it's an evolution. So it's not something that you have to get right before you publish your first piece of content. In fact, I think it's beautiful when a brand evolves with the founder or the face of a business. My brand really came from, honestly, I had spent 15 almost 15 years, when I count my career before my freelancing career, working behind the scenes for businesses, always playing by their rules, using their brand voice, feeling like I'd become an expert at talking like other people. And I'd become an expert at writing for other people. And I kind of lost myself in the process a bit, because I was literally like, I had like 5 people's voices in my head at all times. And it was hard for me to reconcile that person with like the person who I am, which any of my friends would tell you, like, I am sassy, I am, edgy, I like to use humor. I'm not this person that I was presenting for my clients, who were all in like the personality or personal development and spirituality niches. like I was joking the other day, because I'm moving house right now and I'm packing up a bunch of stuff, and I have so many crystals and like and I'm not a crystal person, but people assumed I was, because I was writing for spirituality brands. So I'm like, I have all these crystals and like things that I'm just like, I am not that person. I think for a long time, I really thought I was very like namaste, but that's just not who I am. And so it's very funny to me that like I would get a crystal from as a gift from a client, and then my mom would be like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm supposed to meditate with it or something. And so for me, the Copy Posse was like really like my coming out. It was like I'm just gonna be the sass monkey that I am, and like I'm just gonna be me. And it was so liberating. Like I can drop F-bombs, because guess what? I do. I can say what I want to say, and I can be who I am. And that was the most liberating experience. And I think a lot of times when people are formulating their brand, they try to make it too glossy or too perfect because they want to present themselves in a certain way, or they, look at what someone else is doing, like someone else in their category, and they're like, oh, they have these really soft muted colors with the cursive font or whatever. And I remember thinking like, that's what I want. And then I'm like, no, I'm not a muted color kind of gal, And so I think it was really fun to be able to really, after, doing this for a while, be like, how loud can I get? Because loud is a word that used to be a trigger for me, because people would always say to me, Alex, shh, you're being too loud. Like I was always told to be quiet. No, not anymore. Copy Posse is loud, and I'm like owning that. So that's like the backstory of the Copy Posse brand.
That is a great story. And there are so many lessons in that, really, around allowing ourselves to be who we are, which is not always easy, of course. But you've been through that transformation, and you're working also with copywriters who are taking on other people's voices and maybe losing themselves a little bit too. And this is such an encouragement for them as well, to say, well, you maintain you, like don't lose you in the whole process. I love that. Now, you are a powerful content creator. You release a lot of content every month across YouTube, LinkedIn, email. You deliver courses. It's a kind of like a content first kind of approach. Content creation for business owners can be such a rabbit hole. So what do you consider when you think about the content that's going to resonate most with your clients?
Yeah, I think this was a learning lesson a bit, because the simplest answer is you test concepts, you test ideas. And then I fell into this trap of feeling like every piece of content I create has to be new. And so I got to this point in my business a couple years ago where I was just experiencing so much like content creation fatigue, because I felt like everything I had to put out there had to be this new revolutionary idea. And I would spend hours like creating models and like trying to figure out how I could add value to my community. And like sometimes you'd spend all this time doing a video and it wouldn't get a lot of views. Or I would do a video about something that I wanted to talk about, and while I enjoyed it, it didn't really get a lot of views. And so, I still do that from time to time. But the thing that I've realized is the content that works for a reason. And if there is a topic, like I could ask all of you listening right now, what's the one topic that you could continually talk about? And if you post about it on Instagram or you do a video on it, like it's going to get the most amount of views and comments and likes. It's just that one hot topic. Redo that content in as many different ways as you can. Obviously, you don't want to just stick there, because quite often that is very like top of the funnel type of content. Maybe it's very beginner level content. Maybe it's not the stuff that you ultimately will guide your prospect towards a high ticket purchase or buying from you. But, we've stopped trying to completely reinvent the wheel and realize that if we have video content that's performing really well and we remake that video a different way, add new insights, new examples, it's still new, but the hook is really the same, it will perform just as well, if not better than the original. And so I think it's like taking the pressure off a little bit and knowing not everybody is expecting you to create like new, fresh ideas all the time. And in fact, how many times when you have a challenge in your business, do you watch 10 different videos on it? And you might get one little takeaway that's different than the previous one, but it's what you're looking for. So so that's a big part of our strategy, is like we know what people are looking for. We also are strategic. So when we have a launch coming up or a program that we are promoting, so for example, I'm doing a launch in April. Now we're really starting to prime for that launch. And so even though we haven't started like our official pre-launch or anything like that, I want this conversation to be top of mind for my community. So we're pulling content ideas that I know will directly lead as a stepping stone to what the challenge is that the launch program solves. So it's a mix of strategic and then just kind of doing what we know works, and then testing new concepts. And sometimes a new concept will work and sometimes it won't. We'll be like, okay, well, we tried it.
Yeah. I love it that you're starting off, on this runway to your launch. You're just starting softly, but you're just starting to pepper the ideas, into what you're doing, and then obviously you ramp up. So it is, as you said, very strategic. And so you don't have that, oh my gosh, what am I going to create content about? Because you already know what you've got coming up. One of the things that I've heard you say is that you don't use social media so much to document your own life. And I find that very interesting, because that is not something I like to do either. But there are some marketers, or you might see other people out there who all they do is document their life. What was your, how does that decision sit with you, that you decided, well, no, that's not the type of content I'm going to put out?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I'll say is I'm envious of the people who love to document their day to day. I'm like, man, good for you. I've been doing this for so long, and I still do not think about taking out my phone to document everything. And maybe that's a good thing. Like, I'm living in the moment or whatever. But I'm sure my social media manager, if she's listening to this at any point, she'll be like, please document more. Like, she's constantly coming to me and being like, can you just give us something? Like, can you just go on stories and talk about this and that? And so I need to be prompted, because I am actually quite an introvert, which nobody believes. I'm a loud, outgoing introvert. I
believe it.
So creating content just feels exhausting to me. And so I think, to me, it was less of a decision and more of a, how do I create a business that actually feels good for me? Because what doesn't feel good for me is feeling like I have to constantly show up. But I can turn it on for a few hours a month and bang it out and be great. And then I don't have to worry about it for the next month. And then if I do feel like popping on stories and sharing with my community that like we bought a house or whatever, then I feel like it's not like I have to do it in order for my business to run. And so I think I share that to sort of take the pressure off, because I know I'm not the only one that doesn't love the idea of creating content. I have no problem putting my face on video. I just don't want to have my phone out 24/7 showing people like, look, I'm brushing my teeth, and like, look, I'm going to the grocery store. That's just not who I am. And so, yeah, so I don't do that. Instead, I have time blocked off in my calendar. We try to batch as much as possible, but usually it's about 2 shoots a month, a short form video shoot, and then my YouTube shoot, which is really just me in my studio. So no other people are involved. It's just me.
Got it. Okay.
But, takes me about 2 hours to record 4 YouTube videos. And so that's one day. And then another day, it takes me about 4 hours to record, maybe less, to record 20 short form videos where I go to a separate location and I have a videographer who is basically just interviewing me. And those aren't scripted. The topics are planned. The hooks are planned. That is so important. So I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know. It's not scripted. It's just him asking me the questions.
I love it. And that's a really great way to leverage because you could show up and go, well, I know the topic, I'm just going to speak. But having someone interview you, that's going to induce gold in a way that may not come if you're like, well, I'm just going to ad-lib this. I'm going to look to the camera. That's a really great strategy. I really love that.
That's when my sass comes out too, when I'm talking to people. If I'm just like in a studio by myself and I'm just like it just doesn't happen, So I find, and again, everyone's different, with my YouTube videos, I don't need someone else because it's a script. I have a teleprompter. I just read it and then I'm done. But with the short form, I find the more personal it can feel, almost like my viewer is a fly on the wall watching a conversation happening between me and somebody else, even though that somebody else isn't on the camera. I've found that works well. But even if it's more of a direct to camera moment, because I do some short form video where I am speaking direct to camera, my videographer is standing right behind the camera. He's asking me the question and then I'm answering him, but I'm just looking directly at the camera. It's just a different dynamic.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for taking us behind the scenes. I think that's going to be really, really useful for people.
Absolutely.
And you do a lot of video content. I know that you repurpose it into blogs and emails and all sorts of things, but I know you have a system for determining what sort of video am I creating right now? And you have this model that you call quips, tips, and clips. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I use that for my short form content.
When you say short, how short is short?
Well, I'm sure my team would rather than be like 15 seconds, but I would say like under a minute. Okay. So these are more of the vertical, you see them vertical, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. Are those the main ones? Facebook Reels. So those are the 4 places that I post my short form content. And I think what's really important is a lot of people, they try to go for like the viral topic, right? So they're like, I just want to do a video that goes viral. I have made that mistake where I had a video go viral. And to be honest, I would reverse it if I could. Really? It was a hot topic. It got a lot of attention, but it wasn't my ideal customer.
Got it.
And I got a lot of followers that will probably never buy from me. And my engagement, therefore, goes down because these are people who weren't actually engaged with my content. They followed the video. They got involved with that one topic. And then that's about it. And so I really, anytime someone says go viral, I'm like, it's really not, it's all cracked up to be. Yes, it's exciting when it happens, but if it's not the right video, you are setting yourself up for a short-term win that's followed by wondering why you did that. So quips, tips, and clips are my framework for the type of short-form video that I'm creating. Quips are very much think of them as like, you're remarking on something. So it's usually my opinion on something. Maybe I'm talking about Taylor Swift's launch tour or, Eras tour and the launch that she did. And I'm making a comment about that. Or I'm talking about the Super Bowl, or I'm sharing why I think we should all de-douchify the internet. Or, I'm sharing, usually it's a strong kind of like, I think of like an opinion. And it doesn't have to be polarizing. It doesn't have to be, a lot of my stuff is more on the rebellious side because that's my brand. And so I don't want anyone to think it has to be like, this is stupid. No, it's more, you're remarking on something. You could be like, I saw something the other day that's relevant to your audience, and here are my thoughts on it. What do you think? I mean, this is just, you're literally responding, reacting, remarking on something. And the more relevant it is in the minds of your customers right now, the better it'll do, because relevancy is a very, very strong marketing trigger. So that's quips. Those are more off the cuff. What do you think about this? Talk about it. Make sure you have a strong hook at the front of the video so that you know how you're going to be marketing it. But Tips are much more, tutorial, tactical. Here are 3 things that you can do to be more confident on video, right? Blah, blah, blah. Really simple. Usually 3 is like kind of a good short form number. I've done longer lists and then the videos end up being way too long.
Got it.
But you can do cool things where you do like a green screen background, like TikTok allows for that, where you upload a screenshot and you can even have like the tips written behind you and you're like pointing to them as you go, or you're just kind of, talking about each one. So those are just more tactical, and those ones will have less views, but the people who do watch them are your ideal customer because they're coming to you for some sort of educational content on your subject matter that you teach.
I just want to recap what you said. So the ones that are opinion, that are a little general, or it's about Taylor Swift, or it's about the Super Bowl, or it's just remarking, you're likely to be broader and get perhaps more views. But then when you get into the tips and you're saying, 3 ways to, it's someone who's a little further down the funnel, if you like, who is really coming to you as the subject matter expert. Have I got that right?
100%. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously exceptions to the rules, but that's what I have found. Is like if I'm commenting on Taylor Swift, I've got people in there who love Taylor Swift and hate Taylor Swift and have no idea what I do. Right? But they're just coming because I have something to say about Taylor Swift and everybody's got something to say about Taylor Swift. So so that's kind of the interesting thing. And again, you want to make sure it ties back to your core message, because you could talk about Taylor Swift just for the sake of it. And what does that have to do with your brand? So for me, I'm thinking of one particular video, obviously, where I talked about Taylor Swift and it got a lot of views. I was talking about her launch strategy. So I was breaking down the smart marketing behind her launch. And so it was relevant to what I do. So you want to make sure it's relevant to your audience, but it's also relevant to what you do, or else you're putting in all this work to get views that will never turn into anything.
Right. Great.
So then the third category of short form is the easiest one. It's what I call clips, which is just clips of my longer form content. So like if you were to take a clip of this interview, put it on social, and again, those will usually get the least amount of views because, we get banner blindness sometimes to interviews, especially on social, where we're there kind of more to be entertained or to learn like a very specific set. So unless it's a clip that's like, it's really, really juicy, I find that those will get the lowest amount of views. But usually the people who are watching and commenting on them are people who are lower in your funnel and they're really engaged with your brand and they want to see that authority building. They want to see who Susie's talking to every day. They care about that. And so it's being less attached to the views and instead more attached to how do you make sure you're creating content that isn't just speaking to the beginners, because then guess what? The people who are lower in your funnel are going to be like, oh, I'm so sick of talking about these stupid broad topics. This doesn't appeal to me in my business. So making sure you're really not forgetting about the people who have been with you for a long time and want more of that deeper connection building content.
Such a great framework, and thank you for the distinction. And the thing with the clips, it's repurposing something. Yeah, so there's 100%. Some leverage in that. Now, you started Copy Posse in 2019. Is that right? I
started my YouTube channel in 2019, and then Copy Posse was not even an idea at that point. It was just Alex Cattoni on YouTube, and then it was in 2020 that I launched Copy Posse.
Interesting time to start a business.
Yeah. I mean, okay. If I told you that I launched my first offer on how to make money writing at home, literally like 2 months before everybody was at home, I couldn't have planned it better myself.
You couldn't have. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fantastic. You know what I mean? Yes. Yeah. You couldn't have planned it better, like you said.
Seriously.
So now the business has grown. It's rapidly growing, and you offer a membership. You do courses. You're an educator at heart, obviously, and you've built up a range of products and services. Given that all of us are strapped for time and many of us are small business owners, how do you prioritize what projects are you put on your calendar and that you give your time to?
Yeah, I think kind of like the content piece, I think I made a mistake here in the beginning too, where and it's always funny when we look at how our past experience kind of flavors what we do in our business. And so my past experience as a copywriter was I was creating offers, writing campaigns, and then launching them to my clients' list. And so how I knew how to make money was to create and launch. Like, I don't have to say that many times for every single business owner on here to be like, oh my God, like the launch mode constantly. It's like I want to pull my hair out. So I think in the beginning, I was a little bit like, well, we got to just launch something new. And then made that mistake a couple of times. And I don't want to say it was a mistake. Like, we made good money from it, but I felt like I was like really in creation mode and always having to build something new. And then what I realized, like many membership owners and people who have ongoing, programs, was that, my customer lifetime value is well over $1,000. And if I could just focus on getting more revenue from the people who already know, like, and trust me, and help them get further down the path, that not only would it be easier, but I'd make more money because, I think about 65% of our revenue right now comes from our existing customers. And I think that number will go up because I told my team this year, we're not creating anything new. I want to just focus on what we have and make sure that we're serving our customers in the best possible way. And that what I didn't do right was really kind of go create, launch in the beginning. Now I'm happy that I do have quite a selection of programs to serve, a couple different audiences. But now I think, if I could give advice to anybody, it's what could you create that would be the lowest hanging fruit, but provide the biggest advantage and benefit to your existing customers, because it's so much easier to turn a customer into a repeat customer than it is to get a new lead and then convert that lead into a new customer and all of that. So if you're doing, content creation and all of that over here, nurturing your new leads and stuff, that's great. But when it comes to where to focus your time, I think if I could, go back a year and a half, I would have done what I'm doing now then and just gone, okay, I actually think I can serve my customers in a bigger way and scale that, as opposed to feeling like I always have to create something new.
Yeah, I love that because it's exhausting creating something new. And it's like, the performer who keeps finding new audiences, same act, but keeps finding new audiences. And, if you've got something solid, which you have, and many of us have, then it's like, well, how do I put that in front of another audience?
I think,
go ahead.
I just want to say one note on that, because I think meeting a lot of business owners like yourself and other membership owners, I think that really opened my eyes, because I was talking to people who were like, yeah, I have a multi-million-dollar business and I have one product. And I'm like, what? Like it blew my mind, and I was like, okay, well, I have like 6. And, and realizing that, like, I've been working too hard. And so I think there really is something to be said. Like, I think we have this fear that, like, the market can't be that big. I can't get 5,000 people in my membership on such a niche topic. But then, I've met people who do have large memberships on a topic that I thought was so niche, and realizing the more specific you can be, actually, the better.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And that kind of was a real lesson for me as well. We were creating course after course after course, and it was like, don't need all that, don't need all that. So it's so good to get that energy back, right? That goes into that creation. When it comes to growing your business, and you've been in business now for a few years, what are some of the key metrics that you monitor to ensure that the business is on track?
Yeah, so I mentioned one earlier. It's customer lifetime value. To me, what I like about customer lifetime value is it really shows how well you're delivering on your promises, because if your customer lifetime value is going down, then people aren't staying with you as long, or they're not purchasing your higher level programs, or something. There's a drop off happening there. So that's a big one. It's also, I like it for like extrapolation. If I know the customer lifetime value of a customer, and then I can go, okay, my goal is to get 5,000 new customers this year, I can kind of predict revenue wise what that's going to look like in my business. So I like that metric a lot. And then another metric that we focus on, again, like there's there's revenue drivers and there's revenue generators and there's KPIs and there's, leading indicators. There's all this like fancy terminology for tracking, but we really have boiled it down to customer lifetime value, new leads, and then so how many new email addresses we're getting, because ultimately, email marketing is still the most profitable marketing channel, and I want to make sure that our audience is growing that way. Like I love that, my Instagram has grown, and then my LinkedIn has grown, and my YouTube has grown, and those are great like vanity metrics. Makes me look important and special. But at the end of the day, my email list is where I make my money when I'm doing any sort of internal launch. So email leads, and then I would say the third one is just probably return on ad spend. That's something that we look at very closely with. I think it's because as an organic girl, as someone who loves content marketing, I only started running ads, really seriously like recently. And we're nowhere near some of the big numbers that a lot of people do, but it's been hard for me because it's like, ugh, like what if this doesn't convert, and what if we're wasting money, and what if, so I keep my eye on return on ad spend.
And knowing your lifetime value, you kind of go, oh, well, I can spend that much to acquire a new customer because I trust myself that this is going to be the lifetime value. So good. Like you're teaching business owners, copywriters who want to grow profitable businesses. We're teaching women across all sorts of industries how to grow profitable businesses. What do you believe is most important for business owners who do want to not just have the vanity metrics, as you said, but to actually grow thriving, sustainable, profitable businesses? What do you feel is important for them to think about, to do in their businesses?
Yeah, I think, for me, I love thinking about profit because it's this idea of like gravy, like you have ad spend, or you're spending money on acquiring new leads, and then you're making that money back. And if you can make a little bit of profit on the front end, great. When I think of like real profit, it's what's happening on the back end. So I think what's very, very important is zooming forward and looking at what is the future of your client or customer with your brand, and when might they leave? Because then obviously when that happens, you're no longer making that profit. And a quote that a good friend of mine, Giovanni Marsico, shared with me that I think about a lot is, he says, people will leave you and your business or your brand when they run out of future with you. And so I'm constantly focusing on how can I make sure that I'm growing with my best customers rather than only focusing on acquiring new customers, or in that middle of the funnel where definitely it's the 80% of my revenue. But I think about the handful of people I have who have gotten to the highest level of the Posseverse, as I call it. And I think about them. I think about, I know I'm not going to create a new offer for just 10 people, but like, how could I make sure I'm continuing to serve them? How can I loop them back into my community to make them feel validated? So how can they become coaches? How can I help them build their brand? What do they care about? So, for me, and maybe this is a little bit of like, childhood, like, wanting to be liked on the playground, but I never want anyone to leave the Posseverse. And so I'm always thinking about ways to engage and create a future for my best clients and customers, because like when they leave, it like hurts me a little bit,
Me too. I take it a little personally, especially when they've been with me for a while. And we just in the last year have changed up our deliverables in our membership to really for those people who I want to have stay with us. And you said, I wouldn't create a program for 10 people. Interestingly, we created a very high level program called the Her Business Boardroom for 12 people. But these are women who've been with us for 10 years, roughly. Between 5 and 10 years. And it was worth it for us. It may not be the right thing for everyone, but I just love that idea about thinking about, if I want these people to stay, how do I need to evolve? How does my messaging need to, how do the products and services need to evolve? So good.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. I think when I was thinking program, I was thinking like an actual like course, but like what you're explaining is like an experience, a mastermind, definitely. And what's cool is I've thought about that. At this point, I don't have a high ticket master. I mean, $10,000 is my highest price mastermind right now. but I know in the future, like I have plans to do something exactly as you're describing, because I know, like I want everyone to know what the next step is for them in my universe, knowing at some point there's an end. I mean, it's like how it works with business, but I think, that's how I think of profit, is like the more people I can get to stay, which is sometimes not as sexy as marketing and the tactics and the strategies, but the more people you get to stay, the more profit you have.
Absolutely. More sustainable the business is, the more reliable that revenue. Very good. At Her Business, we have a tagline, which is do what you love every day. What does doing what you love every day look like in your business?
Oh, good question. I think for me, and of course not every day is like this, but typically I love to protect my mornings. I am very in my most creative state in the morning. And so nothing feels better for me than when I wake up and I have nothing on the calendar until the afternoon, because it's like, oh my gosh, I can go to the gym, I can make a smoothie, I can answer some emails, I can do some content creation. And then probably some sort of brainstorming, teaching, working with my students or clients or team on a big creative project. I love solving big problems and talking marketing, as you probably can tell. So I would say that. And then, playing hooky, like ending work a little early, going for a walk with the dog, nothing fancy.
It's great though. It's, living life, in whatever is ideal for you. And that's really the point of it, is like doing what you love every day. And I want to thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
No, just thank you so much for having me here. I love speaking to business owners, especially women business owners, because I think especially now with what's happening with marketing, I think women have such a powerful edge, because I'm stereotyping, of course, but I think, we've always cared more about community building and brand building. And I think that is going to become the superpower with building truly sustainable brands and businesses in the future. While so many other people will flounder with kind of the quick strategies and tactics and AI to try to build a business overnight. And I think it's the long game, and it's doing the things we talked about on this call. So I love having this conversation, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I absolutely love what Alex said about not getting blinded by new leads or concentrating only on finding new customers. Because while it's easy to get distracted by growth metrics, we have to remember that our warmest leads are those in the middle and the end of our sales funnels. That is, those that already know, like, and trust us. These are the people who are loyal to our brand, who know something about us, and they've usually taken the time to consume more of our in-depth content. Now, no brand can be attractive to every consumer out there, and we shouldn't try to be. And when I say brand, I mean you and your small business. Simply being authentic to ourselves will attract the type of people we want buying from us. And this makes me think about the incredible women within the Her Business Network. The community that we have curated over decades of time has become one of the highlights of my life, and those connections have transcended from business into my personal life in many situations. That community wouldn't be as unique and as special as it is now if my team and I concentrated on going viral and getting as many women in the network as we could, as getting as many leads as we could. Instead, focusing our marketing to attract our ideal client and nurturing those women with high-value content and support has created what the Her Business Network is today. So if you're struggling to put yourself out there or create a brand identity that feels authentic to you, I recommend sitting down and thinking about who your ideal client is. Who is the person that you want consuming that specific piece of content, that exact video? Getting clear on who you're speaking to doesn't just help with nerves when you're going to go on video, but it's going to transfer authenticity through the screen, connecting with that person who fits perfectly into your ideal audience. Now, if you'd like more great advice on authentic branding and connection-focused marketing, you can find Alex's information in the show notes of this episode over at herbusiness.com/261. I highly recommend following her YouTube channel, but also follow her on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever you can, because she's always posting really useful content. And if you think the Her Business Network might be the community of supportive women entrepreneurs that you've been looking for, you can also find information about the network over at herbusinessnetwork.com. Now, just last weekend, I was moseying around LinkedIn, which I don't do a lot actually, and I noticed that we had been tagged in this feature on podcasts for women to binge listen to for the summer holidays. Now, this is obviously for the US audience. And here we were, the Her Business podcast, so proudly positioned right beside We Can Do Hard Things by Glennon Doyle, one of my favorite podcasts. A really hard-hitting, really fun, and really heart open kind of podcast, and a bunch of other women-led podcasts. So I wanted to say to women then, thank you so much for recognizing us. We love doing the show. And on the article, they said that, yes, the podcast is for women who want to grow a business and that there's inspiration and expert tips, but they also called out one of our episodes, which I will put in the show notes for you, and it was episode 204 called Should You Unplug from Your Business When on Vacation? Which is totally relevant, obviously, to the feature that they were doing on summer holidays. So, but I will put a link to that, because whether it's summer or winter, if you're taking a break, should you unplug? So that's our show for you today. If you have an idea or a question for an upcoming episode, you can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. I respond to every email. If you're new to the show, be sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, I have one request. Would you please head to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review? I would so appreciate it. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can also rate or review right there. Thank you so much. Thank you to my guest, Alex Cattoni of Copy Posse. Join me next time right here on the Her Business podcast. Bye for now.